clownfish. The little tentacles of the anemone are glow in the dark, so this one looks cool in the dark, in the light, all around. It is over the top, it is so cool. The little anemone tentacle fingers coming out are just so delicate looking and just so perfect for this design. I hope you guys like it as much as I do, and don't forget to click subscribe to see all my future videos as well.
So we are going to begin this one with an overlay of a sandy color glitter acrylic, and it's going to be just a full overlay, full glitter. If you don't want it to be a glitter, if glitter's not your thing, if you actually can encapsulate just sand. If you have a little cup of sand, you can pick a bead of clear acrylic up and dip it into the sand. I do want to mention it doesn't quite apply as easily or as simply as glitter does. It does kind of get stuck in your brush, but I have done it. It looks really cool. And it's always a possibility. Then we're going to file the nail into shape with our e-file, and after that's done, I'm going to take some, you can decide whatever color you want your anemone to be, but I'm going to take a rich dark color. So I'm going to use a berry color since I want mine to be kind of that coral berry mix, and I'm going to sculpt the body of the anemone. So kind of press that out into the nail, and then bring it up into a little like peak, and then press the peak out, just like so. It's actually, you know, if you have the right consistency of acrylic, it's not too bad. I'm going to take a brighter color of that, you know, whatever color scheme you're going with, and I'm going to put that in the middle, kind of brush it out, and then with a dotting tool, make a hole in the very center. Now is the fun part. You get to start making all of these tentacles. I am using a glow-in-the-dark acrylic. The one that I'm using is from Double Dip. In fact, all of these colors are from Double Dip, and I will put their color names in the description box below. So if you see anything you like, you can check there for the names and then look them up. Otherwise, we are going to start making these tentacles. This color is a really pretty, like I said, glow in the dark, and it glows so well. All of Double Dip's glow acrylics glow just beautifully. So if you're looking for anything like that, then I would definitely give these a try. They also sculpt really nicely. Sometimes with glow in the dark, if they have too much of the glow pigment, the acrylic gets really kind of crumbly feeling, or if they don't have enough, then they don't glow. So you have to try to find that perfect balance, which I really feel like Double Dip has done a very good job of. So we've got our second little set of the tentacles. I did these in multiple little segments, just because if you were to try to do the whole thing at once, it would be pretty difficult to get them on there in time before they started to set up too much, and they would just get to be too stiff where you couldn't move them as you would need to. So after I do the first row, I'm going to go through with a second row of slightly shorter tentacles and go around and just kind of give them a secondary layer. And after you have this layer done, then you can do individual pieces for the final little bit to really give it some personality and some life and really make it look realistic, because you can see like the little segments and the separations on all of these ones. It doesn't quite have exactly, a sea anemone look that you'd be going for. So to really finish it off, adding some of those individual tentacles is just a good way to make it even that much more cool. However, if you were to try to actually do all of these tentacles individually, you'd probably just go crazy because there'd be so many to sculpt and place. And the individual ones are definitely a little more time consuming than these bigger chunks. So after you have all of those chunks applied and laid down, then go through and, like I said, make small ones individually. When you're making these little ones, you do have to try to just make sure that when you're making them, you're not making them too long or too short. For some reason, for me, it seemed like it was easier to make them uniform when I was doing the bigger sections and a little more difficult when I was doing the little ones. Not necessarily impossible, but just one of those things where you had to be a little bit more careful with it. I'm going to lay one of the tentacles down, press it onto the anemone with a dotting tool, and then sort of lift it up so it's sticking close to straight up in the air. Add a second one. They don't all have to be straight up. They can kind of go back and forth. They can be wiggly. They can be pointing in different directions. You can have some fun with the shapes and the styles of all of these tentacles, and just keep adding them until you fill in your anemone as full as you want it to be. When you are placing all these tentacles down, do try to keep in mind that you want to make sure you have a space for your clownfish to set. So you don't want it to be so full of tentacles that he can't fit in there. So if you want it to be that dense with tentacles, obviously you can do that. But what I would do is I would just make sure that you either had like a placeholder for your clownfish or kept a spot free for him. So we've got our last couple that we're going to be adding onto here. Once you just look at it and you don't see any weird spots, there aren't any gaps or holes missing or anything like that, then you can pretty much just call it a day and be done with them. So now that we have all of those attached, I'm going to add just a little bit of white lining inside the inside of the anemone with acrylic paint. And now we can start making that adorable little clownfish. So using orange, and if you want to use a color of orange that's maybe a little bit more realistic and less neon, by all means go ahead. I personally like the neon, so I'm going to be using this really, really bright orange that I have. Again, Double Dip. And I also want to mention I do have a discount code that's in the description description box as well. And if you do decide to use that, I would be very appreciative, and I do get a small commission, so thank you for that. Otherwise, we're going to just keep adding those little tiny details onto our clownfish body. This is a very flat clownfish at this point. This is a pancake style. We aren't worrying about building up the shape yet. We're just trying to get the basic, silhouette down. Then after you have that, I'm going to be sculpting 2 separate little fins to the side. You don't want them to be touching your clownfish body. You just want to make sure that they stay, close by so you don't lose them. After you have that done and it's been fully cured, it is hard, you can peel it off the nail form backing and then place it on something that can act as a handle. I'm using a little nail holder and some poster putty, and then you can start building up the shape of your clownfish. You're going to have to add body thickness to both sides of this fish, not just one, because he will be viewed from both sides. You need to make sure that it looks realistic and plump from all directions. Once that's been done, then you can glue those little fins to both sides of the body, one on each side, one pectoral fin on each side. Just dip them into some nail glue and then hold them in place until it's set. I highly recommend using a couple sets of tweezers for any kind of project like this. I personally have such a hard time holding onto these little teeny tiny creations. For one thing, I have extended nails. They're a little bit on the long side, not super long, but it's enough. And then the glove is on. All of that stuff makes it so I really just can't hold those with my naked fingers. Once you have the fins attached, both with some nail glue and with some more of the orange acrylic, then you can go through and you can be adding a little bit of detailing with acrylic paint. I love detailing with acrylic paint. If you've never tried it before, I know some people, they've never given it a try because it's not something that's necessarily made for nail art. There are plenty of acrylic paints that are. I use the cheap stuff from Walmart. It works perfectly fine for me. But if you've never tried acrylic paint and you make anything with acrylic, I would highly recommend you give it a go. For one thing, it applies over the acrylic so much easier than anything with gel. And for another thing, it seems to just last a little bit longer as far as the product in the bottle. There's a lot more in there. I say a little bit longer, a lot longer. There's a lot more product in the bottle and it is significantly cheaper. So if that's a consideration, definitely I would give that a try. Plus, it's, to me, easier on top of acrylic. I'm going to attach little Mr. Fishy onto the anemone with some jewelry gel, flash cure, then full cure, and now I'm going to apply some gel sealer over that very, very glittery background and over Mr. Fishy. Once that's been done and everything has been cured again, I'm going to be applying a 3D glaze, which is essentially a lacquer top coat over the anemone to give it a slightly satiny finish. Once all of that has been dried, then this nail is all done. We've got the shiny fish, the background, the anemone, and then we also have the fact that you can put it in the dark and you can see it glow. I love that you can see the silhouette of the fish and the glowing anemone, everything. I just love it so much. I hope you guys like it as much as I do. And don't forget to click subscribe to see all my future videos as well. Bye!